Today I want to talk about a framework on learning to draw anything. And we're going to be talking about everything that you're seeing on your screen right now. I'm Luiz Celestino. I'm an artist, educator, and recruiter in the entertainment and video game industry. And today I don't want to approach this from a tutorial-ish kind of standpoint and more of a philosophy of learning. Not that there aren't any great tutorial-ish videos out there. I love this one from Antonio and Proko's channel. I'm going to be referencing it a little bit, but all links, artists, and everything that I'm going to be talking about will be in the description below, as well as in a pinned comment for us to discuss. First of all, why do you want to learn to draw something? Please share in the comments, what do you want to learn to draw? What are the big difficulties that you have found along the way? As well as some of the mistakes you made, some of like your victories and all, so that we can, as a community, have a conversation, as well as inform other videos that I'll be making in the future. I'll use for our discussion today two words: curious and serious, and we're gonna break down letters from these words into the steps that we're gonna be talking about for learning to draw. I'm also gonna be breaking down them into two parts. So this first four letters is about like learning, and this final three letters is about like putting that down on paper in the iterative process that comes with that. First of all, I think that approaching anything that you want to learn needs to come from a standpoint of curiosity and seriousness. There is a lot of repetition. There is a lot of you need to really break down stuff, and that takes time. That is hard. That will tire you down. If you're not like feeling tired from learning something, you are probably not learning. So be serious about that, and every time you go back to the topic, be curious about it. I made a similar video for my Brazilian channel, and I used the word that we have for to visit, for the verb to visit. And I really think that's great, that every time you approach a topic, think of that as a visit you're paying to that specific topic, so that you come like on a welcoming mindset and a pleasant mindset, as well as a curious and a fun way, and not like as something that you need to do. You are there because you want to be there. Okay? So let's jump right in. The first one is gonna be like contemplate and see. And contemplate comes first because I want everyone to slow down. Like when you're looking at something, really pay attention. It's like listening to a music while doing other stuff. It's background. If you're doing the same with drawing, you're not paying attention, you're probably not gonna learn. If you're like working on your computer, listening to a music, then everything stops and someone asks you to sing a specific song and it was the first time you heard it, probably you're not going to remember a lot of stuff. Approaching to draw something, if it's the first time you're going to be looking at that, look, draw a specific fruit that you've never seen, or like a 3-person bicycle, or like a specific type of owl. You're going to try and mishmash like stuff that you have in your mind, but it's not going to be like a pleasant experience. It's not going to be correct. It's going to be like a really struggle. It's the same with songs. If someone comes to you and asks you to sing a song that you never heard, there's no way to do it. So learning is a repetition process, and I'm going to repeat that a lot of times so that everyone comes out of this video at least with that information in mind. So really take your time to see. And see, for me and for a lot of like other people, it's about some elements. And I'm going to talk first about 2D elements. And in the second letter, the second step of our discussion, we're going to be talking about more like three-dimensional. So first 2D, we're going to talk about like angles and proportions. We're going to talk about spaces. We're going to talk about values, and we're going to talk about colors. So first of all, proportions and spaces. When you're drawing, everything that you're going to be putting down on paper is important. I'm going to talk about this in other videos in more length. And Betty Edwards does a great job in her book, Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain, on this kind of approach. So I definitely recommend you go through that. It's going to be a great approach. But basically, if you think of spaces, she and a lot of people bring this. The importance of the positive shape of this horn is the same importance in terms of like what you're trying to convey and how you're trying to convey of the negative space that you see between it and other positive spaces. So like the space between the horn and the ear and the neck will have a shape that will be important for the overall impression of this image. You can see like the final negative versus positive spaces inside in this specific context. It's really important. There are also other important information like contrast, like this line being broken down and not just a straight line. There are lots of elements of drawing that we can like have deeper discussions, but the first of them is going to be shapes, and it's going to be spaces and angles. Okay, so angles, it's interesting to see like when you're breaking this down, that it has a relationship with verticals and horizontals, that the more you grid it out, it's easier to see that relation in those angles. And we're gonna be talking about that in another example out here. So first, one more example on positive versus negative spaces. Let's assume that this white part, if this is the positive, we're gonna be thinking of a cup with like negative spaces in black. If we think that the black part is the positive, we're gonna see two faces, and this white part as a negative space between the two faces. So it's interesting to see that we can see we can relate to different things if we think of positive and negative shapes in a different way. So let's get to this owl. This is how I learned to draw. So it's really interesting approach on gridding out. I know it can be a little it can make you stiff in the way that you're trying to approach drawing if you're gonna grid everything. Mostly great artists from the past and everything use it like a gridding system, and even like great muralists from nowadays, they use gridding systems to transfer drawings into like big formats. But it's also interesting for learning to see those angles that we talked about before. For example, if we grid out like here and we divide into like in four this part, we're gonna see that the eyes of the owl sit something like 1/8 of the overall length of this area. So that's one landmark that's gonna be important for you to understand how this drawing will be positioned and how the proportions will relate. The same with like verticals, if we want to find like this angle, or horizontals if we want to find this angle. The orange line is more about like blocking. This was used by a lot of like great artists and educators in the past. You have like Jonathan Hardesty that teaches on schoolism nowadays, or you had like Charles Barg and other academics back in the day. They really think of like this wrapping lines, or almost as you like throw a blanket over something, and all those angles will really show. It's the kind of approach like to positioning everything and understanding those relationships. Once you figured out proportions and spaces and everything, you normally go into the values, because you're going to need to read the relationship between values and all like the 10 steps of different like tonalities and all of that. But it's important to understand, and James Gurney is one of the best people to talk about this and bring the best examples. In his book, Color and Light, he brings this great checker box kind of example, and you can look like the white part in the shadow has the same value of the dark side in the light. So if you don't believe this, we can use that value and really get that across. There's a little bit of a difference, but it's almost the same in this case. If we use like the black part in the shadow and try to bring the black part in the light, it doesn't make sense. It's not realistic. So this is very interesting to learn, to understand, because when you're looking at dividing light and shadow in your drawing, this is going to be super important. I think the same with colors, learning to see that. So this color is the same as this one, and that's weird as well. So if we do this, we can understand that is the same. It's hard to see because of the context, because we're gonna see a colder color here and a more warm kind of color in this side. But if we do use like this in a normal context, like a white background, you're gonna see that is the same color. But if we put the blobs in here, you can see right away that one seems way warmer than the other. So it's very interesting to see color relationships, and this is one of the best examples that you can find out there. So going back to our letters, the second one we're going to be talking about is more of the 3D approach to learning to see. So once I have like seen the angles, shapes, and everything, I need to go deeper and understand or elaborate on that topic, especially if I want to draw like this owl from a different angle. So I'll need to go in and understand that this is more like a spherical kind of way, more rounded shape. The body can be more of an elliptical kind of body that will have a volume, so you can use like more of an X-ray kind of view to see the volume. You can like break that down into proportions as well. So 1/3 of that sphere will be where the eyes are going to be sitting. Also, the beak is going to be like the lower third kind of way. The wings are going to have a volume of their own, probably something that is going to look like a more cylindrical shape, more elliptical shape, but has like a kind of a squarish kind of approach to it. And then we'll taper down, probably more in a kind of triangular format down the line. So I don't know all the shapes, but we need to start investigating, and that comes down to a lot of iteration. You're gonna be like learning from different photographs of owls, from videos of owls, from real owls. I had the opportunity to draw from a live drawing session with owls that is really interesting, but it's really hard at the same time. So it's something that will take a lot of time and will take us to the next topic, that is the R for rationalize or remember. If you like have seen from a 2D standpoint, you have seen from a 3D standpoint, now it's time to put names into stuff so that you can remember that more clearly. So if we're talking about like the right side of the brain on the first one. We're talking more on the left side of the brain on those two. And it's going to correlate a lot with Antonio's framework. So like all those three first parts, it's going to be understanding like primitive shapes and volumes, how to manipulate them and observe them on real things. The next one, the rationalize, is going to be more about education, because you're going one more level into that and trying to understand like what's beneath the surface. So anatomy, for example, in this great tutorial by Blaise, where he teaches us to draw birds of prey. He's going to be looking at a lot of different owls, how their skulls are placed inside the head, or like the whole anatomy, like the beak having different correlation even in the skull and all of that. So it's very interesting to see and go deeper. Another great reference for anatomy is Terryl Whitlatch. Like she has great books and great courses on schoolism on talking about like creature and animal anatomy. So I really encourage all of you to go look at that and really understand deeper the relationship with like the thing that you want to draw. In this case, we're talking about birds. But anything, like you're going to draw cars, understand like the packaging and all the constituent elements that come to that specific topic. And as I said before, it's about like doing that over and over again. So this 3 parts for you to really remember and have like a visual library of everything, it's about like drawing a lot. For that example, I bring like Evan Amundsen. He's a great artist and great person. I had the pleasure to have a conversation with. When he's trying to learn a specific topic, he does a lot of drawings. In this case, some of the birds that I got from his Instagram account, but I also saw him learning to draw like rabbits a few months ago or a year ago, and he was drawing like over and over again, so he has an understanding of that. He talks about that also in his Domestica course that I'll have a link in the description below. I highly recommend looking at that, especially for those that want to draw more characters. He's an amazing character designer. And Terryl Whitlatch, also a great example of like observation drawing and trying to break down stuff. I love this wing drawing. Like everything is in there, like functionality, shapes, like line quality, everything that we want to be learning from these amazing artists. It comes down also going back to Antonio, to the next step, like of imitation, education and imitation. So we're going to be looking at the real thing as well as how artists are making that happen, and really correlating both to learn how to draw in your own style. So yeah, next step, imagination. So now we're getting to that point. It's also the next step on Antonio's conversation. But once you have all the information inside your head, it's time to put everything together in an imagined context. In imagination, it could be something that anyone has ever seen, like an alien creature, like you're doing the next Avatar movies and you need to create a creature that no one has ever seen. Avatar is coming out near to the release of this video. So like Way of Water, it has sea creatures that were not seen in the first movie. So you need to create that from scratch, or like Star Wars creatures and stuff like that Terryl was involved in that. But also imagination can be a part of like observation. So I want to dive deeper into this example by Blaise. I'm going to assume that he's using reference for this. He could be drawing this from imagination, as he has a big library in Birds of Prey, on Birds of Prey. But I really want to dive deeper here and explore the choices he had in putting this together. It's more, in my view, it's more about what he left out of the paper than what he put in. Like, because he's making choices. If we take the 2D approach that we were looking at before, so comparing angles, comparing proportions, spaces, values, and colors and everything. If we do that like in a very gridded out kind of way, like very small squares and everything, and go all the way, we're going to be going into the direction of hyperrealism. This is not what Aaron wanted to do here. Aaron is looking more into how to make it beautiful on paper and how to make design choices to make it convey in the way that he wants. Even like the contrasts, like the color contrast for the eye, the value contrast for the lights and the dark parts, the texture contrasts, and all the lines, how they're guiding the eye to the face, and all of that. Those are design choices that he's looking at a reference, but deciding what to do, to put down on paper and how to put that down on paper so that he can convey his way of like communicating artistically, as well as trying to bring the viewer in the way he wants to bring the viewer. So it's not only about creating space mermaids like Iain McCaig did here. It can be about how you're going to translate what you see into the paper, and you can to some extent visualize that in your head, and some of that is going to be an iterative process with what you put down on paper. Some tools for that, and Iain McCaig is a great example of that. He has a tutorial from back in the day, a lot of years ago, from Gnomon Workshop, and now he has also a workout on schoolism. But one phrase that he said that I have never forgotten is, drawing is like dreaming on paper. And for him, like, he tries to convey, as he was like sleeping and dreaming, he would see things like perfectly or almost perfectly, almost realistic. He tries to do the same while he's awake and then translate that into paper, almost like copying from his own head. As we don't have like the power of imagining everything, he's gonna be using a lot of like his knowledge in anatomy, so rationalization and remember. Also looking at a lot of reference to rationalize or really translate what he's seen into the drawings from imagination. So it's always a conversation between what you know, what you remember, what you're looking at, and what you want to like put on the paper and that you're imagining in your head. Another great tool for imagining, seen here in the Skillful Huntman and World of Level Design, is silhouettes. So if you just like throw some blobs into the paper or like the digital canvas in this case, you can start seeing shapes. If you like throw some lines over it, probably you're gonna see different things coming up. Like this could be like a bird beak, and you can start like fleshing that out and using your mind's eye to really look at some things and see that happening. So a lot of processes, and Scott Robertson had a great tutorial also back in the day where he taught environments in a similar method of like throwing shapes together and trying to visualize stuff. That's really great. Once you have like imagined, it's gonna be also an iterative process with outputting it and organizing all that information on the canvas, on the paper. As we talked about, like Aaron Blaise owl here, I want to talk about this other example. Other amazing artists like from Brazil, a plein air painter, Alexandre Reider. His decision-making process is also very interesting to see once we have the photograph of the place that he's painting on plein air. So he is making design choices both in terms of like values as well as what to put on the page, because he decided to take that out. Also in the colors, like this yellow is not here. In the colors, the red tones of the tree trunks are also emphasized for the kind of like warmth and the sensation that he wants to convey with the painting. A lot more reflections and blues that we see a little bit here, but he emphasizes from like his experience in painting a lot of stuff and making things beautiful. So it's in my opinion, a great example of like outputting with imagination and decision making as well. Also, for that to happen, we're gonna need to use a lot of fundamentals. So this is just an example from the Skillful Huntsman as well. So the link will be for the book in the description below. But also a great tool to bring life to something that we have never seen, like this alienish kind of environment that they are creating here. So to imagine that, they use a lot of like silhouettes, shapes, but also perspective to put that all together, and construction in ideas to put that together in something that will look believable. The last 2 points I want to make in this video is gonna be to talk about like unplugging. That's a big topic in art. Really, when we are drawing something or painting, doing like that big illustration that you need to deliver, you can go into like a vicious cycle of making mistakes and not seeing them, because like your eyes are looking so much time into that that you don't see the mistakes anymore. One great way to go about that is, for example, to use the flip horizontal tool in your like digital work, or like use a mirror if you're like painting as people used to do back in the day, so that you can see it with a fresh perspective. Also, like go take a nap or take some hours or some days away from your painting and come back with a new perspective, and really look at it with fresh eyes. So unplugging, like unwrapping yourself from that drawing or painting, is really important. It can be like every 10 minutes, every 5 minutes, sometimes every 2 minutes for the flipping horizontal that a lot of people use. It could be also like zooming out a lot. A lot of digital painters, you're gonna see, if you see like time lapses and everything, they're doing this kind of stuff. So it's really important because they are looking at it from a different perspective. And every time you come back, it has to do with squint. So seeing the big shapes and surveying for the mistakes you've made before like really going back to it, and trying like to summarize if the overall picture is making sense or not. As last examples I brought here as more of Evan doing imagination work from owls. So using all that visual library, exploring and like going back and forth to see what makes sense or not. He's always sketching and doing amazing stuff before going down to a final image. And in this final image, you can see that the details in this area are way more loose than in this area. This is by design, like to really your eye, lead your eye to the face. But sometimes you can get lost if you are too into the drawing or painting and really render some parts that won't make sense for the overall composition. So really go back when you're drawing, take some time, take your rest, unwrap, unwind, unplug, and then go back to that in the end. That's my main mentality for drawing. Tell me, please, what you think in the comments below. As I said before, all links for videos are in the description. If I haven't put any one of them in there, please let me know in the comments and I'll definitely reply to that. Other than that, good luck on your drawings. It's a journey, it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. So be curious and be serious. I hope you liked this video. If you did, share it with any friends or like it or subscribe to the channel. It will also help share the news inside the platform of YouTube. And I hope to see you all in the next video. Have a great one. Yeah, bye.